So in this video, I want to talk about the danger that is Steve Witkoff. I think Witkoff is dangerous. I think he's a great deal maker in real estate. He's probably really good at that. But deal maker does not translate necessarily to diplomat because you miss a lot. You don't have the background or the training or the skills or whatever to be able to do the diplomatic function in a meaningful way. All right, let's look at this. So here the White House just put this out. Watch a powerful moment. Ioden Alexander, held hostage by Hamas for 584 days, finally speaks to his mom. Steve Witkoff hands her the phone as she breaks down in tears. Trump administration won't stop until they're all home. So here, I mean, this is a great scene in as far as that goes. Here you go.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Ioden? Ioden? אתה בחוץ, נשמה שלי, אתה בחוץ.
Okay, mom's happy. Great. I mean, I'm glad to see that. I want to know what he gave up in order to release that, though. That's the other half of the equation. And you make a mistake when you only look at half the side of a coin and not look at the full picture. And I think we're doing that some. Okay, Timothy Malovven said this, is Witkoff on defense, but whatever it is, I think the mood on Putin is changing in Washington. I think that's fair. Witkoff says, my meetings with Putin were private, no outsiders. And this goes back to the scandalous way that he had that meeting with Putin a few weeks ago. Listen to this.
My meetings with Vladimir Putin, outsiders were not invited. Should I have said to Vladimir Putin, I don't want to open up a dialogue with you. I don't want to have a relationship with you. Biden hadn't talked to him.
No, you should have had a meeting with him with a proper U.S. interpreter, not having someone issued to you from the Kremlin. This was like level one kind of mistake. Now, I believe that you understand how deals work. Maybe you should have been even in the entourage of someone who's doing the diplomatic stuff to talk about deals. But you handling this, look, this is not the place for amateur hour.
Him in 3.5 years. At the direction of the president, I had an opportunity to make contact with President Putin. He is a central protagonist in that conflict. If we're not talking to him, how do we ever think that we're going to affect a resolution there? It's not even possible. So the notion that we're not supposed to talk to him is totally preposterous, or that I should talk to him and condition those talks on being able to bring an interpreter there or
no,
other.
You should be able to bring an interpreter. That's like diplomacy 101, to get it right, to make sure everybody understands exactly what's going on all sides of the party.
People there, I did not need anybody there. It actually worked better being there alone and then downloading our leadership, our following.
That's excuse making. That's all that is. Okay, so let's look at this because this was kind of bad. And first, let's look at Steve Witkoff and his, his resume and his background. He's an ambassador at large and special envoy to the Middle East. Okay, it's a cool title. If you look at, like, I was researching about him. Here's a fawning description of him from a real estate attorney. A few have mastered the art of deal making quite like Steve Witkoff. His journey from real estate attorney to one of the most formidable investors in the industry and now a key diplomatic figure under President Donald Trump is nothing short of remarkable. By the mid-90s, Witkoff has distinguished himself as a shrewd investor, known for his ability to identify and transform undervalued assets. Seeking greater control over his own projects, he parted ways with Stellar and established Witkoff Group in 1997, shifting his focus to high-profile commercial and residential developments. Under his new firm, he continued executing bold acquisitions and transformations. A prime example was his purchase of 1107 Broadway, a neglected office building near Madison Square Park, for $190 million in 2011. He converted it into luxury condos under the brand The Nomad, later selling the residences for over $800 million in total sales. Okay, so he understands real estate and how to make a deal like that. But that's not the same as diplomacy. And when we get down to this is what I'm talking about. February 11th, 2025, President Trump sent Witkoff to Moscow for a critical mission, negotiating the release of U.S. citizen Mark Fogel from Russian imprisonment. Witkoff met directly with President Vladimir Putin and played a pivotal role in brokering a prisoner swap. Okay, great, he got him out. That led to Fogel's release in exchange for Russian citizen Alexander Vinnik. Okay, but should we have been releasing this guy for someone who was Fogel, who was innocent by all means? And is that really a great deal? Like, I'm glad that Fogel is out. Like, that's good. But should we have made that deal? I mean, that's really the problem here. It's like, what are we not seeing? Okay, so here's Witkoff, and you look at his record. Yeah, he's done some good things in business. That's great. But you're going up against Sergei Lavrov, right? As far as your counterparty on the other side, Lavrov has been the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Russia since 2004. You got 20 years on the job experience, and before that, another 10 years as ambassador to the United Nations. 30 years of he can run circles around you. And again, this is not amateur hour. You need to be able to do this right. Okay, NBC reports, shockingly, during his latest Moscow pilgrimage, Witkoff met with Putin and his Putin's two negotiators alone and without his own interpreter, relying a breach of protocol on a locally present one. Why? Why would you your basic guy, so your basic level diplomat just coming out of diplomat school and having learned the ropes and he's like has not done anything before, would know not to do this, but he doesn't. And he was defending that as if it was a good thing. Here's the video released by the Kremlin. It clearly shows Witkoff pointing at the young woman and asking, "Oh, interpreter?" To which the Putin and company say yes. Following that, cryptically, Witkoff asks from the embassy, to which he again gets a confirmation. Okay, so like you shouldn't have done that, and right. Okay, but hey, I have Putin's trust. No, Putin thinks you're a stooge. That's the trick. Like he thinks he can run all over you, and he is going to run all over you if he has a chance. Trump's envoy relied on Kremlin interpreter and meetings with Putin to end the war. So what embassy is the interpreter from? Obviously, there's no Russian embassy in Moscow, unless Witkoff thinks so. So a logical conclusion is that he was assured that she was sent by or approved by the U.S. Embassy. Anyway, let's look into who she was, because that's kind of an interesting question. So, unfortunately, the video only shows a glimpse of her side profile. Fortunately, AI's face search tools are happy with that breadcrumb of visual information. Excuse me. Okay, she apparently is the government-appointed interpreter for key Russian political figures such as Putin, Lavrov, and Medvedev. Okay, so she's high level. So what is she telling him, or how is she phrasing things, or massaging what's being said in one way, or right? I mean, you don't know because you don't have your own. More worryingly, she's also apparently the interpreter for the head of Russia's foreign intelligence agency, Naryshkin. Okay, now this guy, the head of the Russian intelligence agency, and he's been in that place since 2016. And it gets even worse than that. She is his interpreter. Her name is Natalia Koshkinka, born 1991. Currently, she works as second secretary of the Russians' MFA, that's Ministry of Foreign Affairs Linguistics Department. But a few years ago, she worked as third secretary of Russia's mission to NATO in Brussels, almost certainly not as an interpreter job. Okay, so it gets worse. Leaked social insurance records show that in addition to being employed by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, she's also working for the holding company of RT, the Kremlin's propaganda mouthpiece. So the question is, did Witkoff really think that she was sent by the U.S. Embassy, or did, maybe worse, the Ukraine Embassy in Moscow endorse her as a neutral interpreter for a negotiation where the lives of hundreds of thousands of people, plus the security of half the world, were at stake? Like, this was a rookie kind of mistake that shouldn't have been there. Now, or, as somebody else has posited, unfortunately, sarcastically, wow, if she's a U.S. asset, the Americans are going places because she's right back here behind these bigwigs. And yeah, she's not a U.S. asset. So what is she doing there? Now, there's some theory that Witkoff, who is not subordinated to the State Department, and now remember, that's a really important point. He's not working for the Secretary of State. He's working directly for the president. So the president is undercutting the Secretary of State, who should be in charge of this negotiation or appointing the best negotiator we have. And let's talk about this for a second. Do we not have a better negotiator than a real estate mogul? like to go do this? A better diplomat? Like, have we trained diplomats for decades and don't have anybody to draw on that would be a profound negotiator? But we're drawing on this guy. Okay, but Igor Shushko is saying that the theory is that this person who's not subordinated to the State Department and given ample autonomy is used by the White House for negotiations with Russia so he can be scapegoated with minimal fallout when the talks inevitably fail. I don't see it that way. I don't think that that's it at all. I think that this is Trump's buddy, and because he's Trump's buddy, that's why he's here. That's the only reason he's here. Let's listen to him again talking about how Trump wants to pursue things. It doesn't sound like he's leaving everything on the table. It sounds like he's already admitting that we're not going to use all our resources. Listen to this again.
Each and every time. He believes in peace through strength, which essentially means that resorting to violence and war is not necessarily in the best interest of the country and not necessarily the best way to effect truces, ceasefires, permanent peaces, whatever we want to call it. He's the leader of of a superpower, the most powerful nation on the earth, and if he wanted to, he could exert a military force everywhere, and he just doesn't think it's productive in many circumstances. And so dialogue and diplomacy are a avenue that he wants to pursue each and every time, because if he can get to a successful resolution in the best interest of the United States peacefully, that's a better prescription for solving some of these world problems that we're.
So your most junior level Sovietologist, or whatever they call it now, as a Russian, someone who studies Russia in the diplomatic corps, is going to know that that is foolhardy, that Putin only responds to strength, and this diplomacy is laughable to Putin. And he doesn't know that. And that's really the trick here. Okay, just a little bit more and we'll be done. Here we have John Bolton, Trump's former national security advisor, talking about Trump's Houthi truce has left Israel in a lurch at a critical time. The ceasefire also appears to be linked to Steve Witkoff's nuclear negotiations with Iran. This guy is negotiating everything for the United States because Trump appointed him. But why? And if that's the case and it's a serious mistake, what kind of serious mistakes is he making elsewhere, like with Putin related to Ukraine? And this from Fox News, I think nails it. She covers McFaul and then has Senator Tom Cotton respond. And this is why what is going on is going on.
NBC is reporting this weekend that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, during 3 high-level meetings with Putin, didn't use his own interpreter, instead using an interpreter from the Kremlin. Michael McFaul, former U.S. ambassador to Russia, told them this. He said using the Kremlin's interpreter was, quote, a very bad idea that put Witkoff at a real disadvantage. McFaul went on to say, I speak Russian, have listened to Kremlin interpreters and U.S. interpreters at the same meeting, and the language is never the same.
Okay, and McFaul was the U.S. ambassador to Russia during the Obama administration.
If that reporting is accurate, why would we agree to that?
Well, first, I don't necessarily credit that reporting, but second, Steve Witkoff is a very skilled and capable negotiator. He has the president's total trust, and he's 100% loyal to the president.
And that's it. He has the president's trust and is 100% loyal to the president. He's not necessarily the best guy for the job, but he's loyal to the president. And that's what we're doing. We're playing with the B team, maybe even the C team, because President Trump wants loyalty more than he wants the best negotiator diplomat that we have. And we certainly have more somewhere in the State Department. So that's why we have Witkoff, and that's where we are right now. So if you're asking yourself why Witkoff, well, the answer is pretty easy. It's because Trump wants that loyal person to be representing him, and that's where we are. All right, tell me what you think about this. Put that in the comments below. Thank you for your time, the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.